will be sharing with us a little bit of an introduction to some of you who are joining us for the first time today, our guests from Singapore especially. This is part of our effort to support our GPs in this difficult time, where the feedback has been the need for community, the need to share everything that's difficult in running the fund business, right? So we talk about great deal flow, things like that, but often we forget that managing a VC fund in itself is an entrepreneurial effort, which is really, really hard. So this is where everything is being shared. We bring in speakers every now and then. We've had a couple, talking from everything from portfolio resilience, how do you even manage your portfolio at this time? How do you double down? To secondaries, so looking at options where LPs are not meeting the calls, the capital calls, which we'd love to hear Ed comment upon as well. So looking at secondaries as an option. And today, of course, with Ed, those of you may have come across Ed's Forbes articles and things like that, but he's been a venture lawyer and really a prominent figure in the space based out of New York with Lowenstein Sandler, and they've been doing, about 1,000 over deals. I was listening to one of your podcasts recently, Ed, about the Twitter deal that you did, and you were out there in your winery, in your vineyard. So interesting stories there where, he's been part of the hottest deals and have seen at all the ups and downs. He's also an LP in, I think, over a dozen funds or so, and has invested in female founders and truly is a feminist in many, many ways. But with that, I will hand it over to Shelley to moderate the session.
Well, you captured what I also wanted to share. First of all, Ed, we so appreciate you're spending a little bit of time with us this morning, as well as all the work you've done and how much of a champion you've been, not only to women founders and funders, but also to every type of diverse and actually underserved founder and funder. And tell us about yourself, but also your different perspective on how both founders and funders are approaching this pandemic.
You mentioned that I've invested in female founders. I've been angel investing since '06. And have invested in more than 100 and somewhere around 130 startups. I've had about 30 exits, and I've also invested in several dozen venture funds on 4 continents. So I feel like I also have a bit of a perspective as an LP and as an angel. And then you mentioned some writing. In terms of what people are doing, I think that one of the defining themes is there's this period of reassessment and people hitting pause on anything new, any new commitment, and then determining, okay, we're, at some point we have to say that the reassessment period is over and we have to start doing our day jobs again, whatever that is. And in the case of venture investors, it's putting money to work because you're paid a management fee to do that. In the case of LPs, it's different. It might be sitting on cash because LPs can get paid to manage endowments or portfolios in a way that is conservative in a down market.
Having said that, tell us the best good news story, because, we do also hear stories of some unusual and at some level encouraging things. So what's your favorite good news story that you've been hearing or have heard? Maybe it's not many, but one.
So I think that there are a number of good news stories, and there's a women's health related company that about 36 hours ago, we closed a growth round for. It hasn't been announced yet. And the executive team is 5 women, and they've built an incredible company. And this, the first close, there'll be more to come, but there are a bunch of women in the boardroom who are writing the checks. The round was led by a woman. And I think I am definitely seeing more of that. But I also think I'm looking to the past for guidance on how to handle this one.
So last question before I turn, you mentioned that, investors are looking to Asia because of the, spread of the virus. They're ahead of us in terms of what to expect and where perhaps to invest. Are there regions of the world, since you have a global view, I know with all of your activities, are there regions of the world that from an investment point of view, you think are set to benefit more than others? And if so,
sure.
how?
And I want to just clarify my comment earlier. I didn't mean to say that they were making investments in South Korea so much as that they were looking at data.
I see. Okay.
To understand what is likely to happen here. And I think that, for instance, our federal government's response has been very poor. And that is going to result in a different set of outcomes. So you also have to adjust for that. But having an understanding of the ways in which people are going to look for opportunities differently, there's always an undercurrent of conversation around whether the Bay Area will continue to be the dominant center for venture capital and for startups, and do you have to live in the Bay Area? Does this event finally make working geographically distributed something that is really, really valuable? And if so, does that change the dominance of SF? And does that, for people who have a network that is predominantly SF focused, how does that change their network? You can then more broadly apply that and say, does this enable investors in the States to look more to Europe, where, number one, there are countries that have done a much better job than ours. Number two, valuations have historically been lower. And number three, there are far fewer dollars at every single stage. So there's less competition for good deals, and yet you have really strong infrastructure and government support. So if I were looking for geographies that might do well, I might look at Germany, for instance, or I might look at France, for instance. And does it matter if the team is someplace that you would not have otherwise been looking to make those investments, because a Zoom call is a Zoom call. It's not getting on a plane and going to, spending your whole day on a board meeting. And similarly, how might you think of opportunities in Africa or LATAM, or Canada, as examples, because those are all places where there are really interesting venture communities. And I know that I've been on Zoom calls in Israel, and people are active. It's so strange to see multiple colleagues standing in an office together, because I'm not seeing that in the States.